What are we thinking about the side they're going to put out on the field in that match? Is it going to be giving the new starters like Josh Lord a chance? What are we thinking?
I think you're going to see quite an experimental side. There's a few guys who, should we say, need a few yards under the belt after not playing a lot of rugby in the last month or so. Obviously, the guys like Whitelock and Moanga who missed a good chunk of the Tri Nations. And there's some younger guys who this is the perfect opportunity to blood them with Wales, which is probably, outside of the France test, the biggest match the All Blacks will have circled for the end of season tour coming up next week. So yeah, I do expect to see a few changes when the squad's announced at 8:30 tomorrow morning. How about you, Richard? What are any predictions?
Yeah, I sort of was going down the same sort of road as you there. Just with some of those guys who, coming back, haven't played for a while, so I imagine they'll get some time out there. It's hard to know what the sort of thinking is for these sort of games. They haven't played in 3 or 4 weeks, and but they want to give some guys. I'd like to see, one thing I sort of wrote down was I'd like to see Will Jordan get a go at fullback. I think that he obviously got dropped for that second Springboks test, but such potential, and I'd like to see him get a good go there and see how he goes.
Yeah, that's actually a good one. I suppose it is a chance for the All Blacks to test a few different guys in different positions as well, and play around with that. I think Lord, probably they're not going to chuck him straight in the deep end, right? He'll come off the bench at least. So I imagine Whitelock, given the news, he's regained the captaincy from Artie Severe and not Sam Cane for the end of year tour. You'd have to imagine he probably starts, and then it's one other in the second row with him, probably Lord off the bench. Is there any other?
I wonder whether they'll give even just to Tuipulotu or something a go as well, because
I think Tuipulotu's gone back to New Zealand. Him and Scott Barrett were the two. That's why Lord got the call.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah,
I'd love to see
Tuipulotu over there. Is he?
Yeah, that's actually another great shout. He was great in that second Argentina test. So
And I mean, Retallick was. He was huge in that whole sort of rugby championship. So maybe they'll give him an extra week off. But at the same time, they've had 3 weeks off, so we'll see.
Yeah, I'd love to see Ethan Blackett to get 80 minutes. That's one player who was certainly on an upward trajectory. Was huge in a couple of the opportunities he got during the rugby championship. Even that first test against the Springboks up in Townsville, when it was only late on, he was a late in for Jacobson and really stood up there. So him in a bit of open space around FedEx Field could be a lot of fun.
Where would you like to see played?
Probably 6, I think. Give him a bit of that Akira Ioane role, like roaming around the edges, and maybe him and Jacobson together in a loose sport.
Gives Tutu a go as well. He seems to be sort of on the outer a little. I just wonder if he's on the outer a little bit. So they give him. This could be a good chance to sort of get him back in there and play in some form.
Absolutely. How about you, Fisky? Is there anyone else you'd like to see get a run on Sunday morning?
No, I'm kind of looking at it from the USA angle. I think New Zealand, there's no doubt, will ease into the tour, give everyone a run. Probably doesn't really matter who they put out there. USA coming off the back of a horrendous qualifying period, edged over Canada by a couple of points, and then lost to Uruguay. So they've got faced the embarrassment of trying to play Chile next year to make the World Cup. So how the mighty have fallen. I think the organisers would have been hoping for a more competitive match. The USA really haven't developed in the last 6 to 10 years, and despite the competition growing over there, I think that the local talent it's just not coming through. And I see the start 66.5. That seems massive. I know the All Blacks are almost untouchable in these type of games, but I think the plus is too big, personally. As bad as USA going, I think they've got a bit to prove. It's their last match of the year. A lot of players will be pushing for that spot in the qualifiers. I think the start's big, particularly New Zealand being a little bit distracted and trying a few different combos.
Yeah, so I suppose the closest corollary betting-wise, at least we have to this, is the Tonga test at the start of the year, which the All Blacks got past that triple-digit mark. It was in the last second, or certainly close to it. I remember a lot of cheering late on in that game, but you'd have to say that was obviously not a full-strength Tongan team, given the MIQ restrictions and the issues they faced there. It's a lot of club rugby players and stuff. The USA, they're still a solid outfit, although haven't been at their best recently. It's probably at 66, you're still going to be nervous for a lot of the game, though, right? Like this All Blacks team, especially with the depth they're going to have on the bench later on, they can probably score 20 points, 3 tries in the last 5 or so minutes. So I wouldn't be talking anyone out of the 66.5 myself. Were there any markets that jumped out to you early in betting, Rissy?
Oh, look, I like to get a bit leery with it, and I had a look at the alternative point starts, and there was a USA plus 41.5 at $6.80. I think 60. It could go either way. It just, it's quite a $6.80, so it's a real value bet there. But I can just see that All Blacks sort of starting strong, but just sort of coming off the throttle a little bit in the second half, perhaps maybe sort of similar to that. I think it was the second Argentina test where they looked really good in the first half, but then they just sort of second half, Argentina scored a try, a couple of penalties and all that. So yeah, I mean, it's a really hard one. Those big lines. I always say, oh no, I'm gonna go on the plus and the plus, and always the minus always comes in. But I think if I'm gonna have a bet in this game, I will definitely be on that plus, and then I'll be looking a little bit more with the plus as well. With the
I like that alternate start, because if you look at USA, they've played 4 matches in the past 6 weeks. They're pretty settled. They played France and England at the World Cup, lost by 38 and 24. And I think it was Namibia we played. The start was around 70, and we won 71-9, so 62-point margin. And Namibia aren't in USA's class, so yeah, everything points to me to the plus getting up quite comfortably. Like, they won't be competing at a level that are worrying points, and they can still tackle. They're a slow side, but they can tackle.
Counterpoint, they did lose by 61 to an Ireland team missing all their Lions earlier this year. So
I did say that.
That was in Ireland, and one of those it was a short-term tour. So it was a tour they were over there for 2 weeks, and I think it's a total different story at home and settled. It wasn't one of those short-term trips across. They haven't got within 40 odd of England the week before as well. So we still haven't got a margin that's covered the 66. Put it that way.
Yeah, fair enough.
And the game was quite close, I think, wasn't it? It was
14 points. Yeah, they came roaring back in the second half.
Obviously, with the lines, but
anyone who watches NFL will know FedEx Field's not known for its quality of turf as well. So if you're chasing a big minus, it could get a bit tricky there. They had a game there last weekend, and it's never in the best condition, that field. So it's probably one. It's a bit complicated. I'd be more tempted to play an alternate start either way if you do have a strong lean and try and get a bit of value there, because I think the bookies have done quite a good job with the 66. But I
said 41.5 because that was the highest it went to. But yeah, you can probably get into that sort of 50, sort of 50, 55 zone. I think it'd still be good value on offer.
No interest in New Zealand by more than 80 at 450 from either of you, I take it?
Nah.
No, I don't think it's that type of weekend.